Hi everyone. Welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars. All the details are in today's video, and if you enjoy it, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can support us even more by hitting the join button below. Thank you for being here. Now let's get into it. On a day wrapped in hushed voices and solemn glances, Cemre Arda quietly arrived at the funeral of her partner Gökberk Yıldırım's aunt. It wasn't a publicized appearance or a staged moment. It was something she chose almost at the last minute, as she would later say, simply because she felt she needed to be there. Yet that single decision, made in private and with clear intention, set off a surge of conversation in the media and among fans far beyond Istanbul. A moment meant to belong to a family became the focal point of a loud, persistent question: why didn't Cemre hug Gökberk after the funeral? The cameras captured her presence, reserved, steady, eyes soft with grief. They also captured what didn't happen: no lingering embrace, no dramatic display by the graveside, no photographed moment that could be turned into a headline. And just like that, an intimate situation was converted into a public riddle. In the hours that followed, speculation thickened. Was there tension? Had something shifted between them? Or, as some wondered, was this restraint a deliberate response to the circumstances? Cemre, aware that her every movement becomes a statement, chose to speak. When she did, her words were measured, carefully articulated, and sensitive to the family whose sorrow, more than anything else, deserved center stage. She explained that her decision to hold back from a public show of comfort was grounded in respect for the Yıldırım family's grief. The atmosphere, she said, demanded quietness, consideration, and an understanding that support can be profound without being seen. She elaborated that in a moment like that, what matters most is protecting the family's emotional space. The most loving gesture, she felt, was the one that didn't draw attention, didn't invite commentary, and didn't risk overshadowing a farewell. She chose to be present without adding to the noise. No dramatic hugs, no high-profile tenderness in front of lenses that were always ready, always waiting. Her goal, she stressed, was not to erase her feelings, but to keep the focus where it belonged. On a family saying goodbye. Her reasoning, unexpectedly, didn't spark a backlash. It sparked admiration. Fans and onlookers noted the self-control it takes to be silent when the world expects a performance. They praised her for understanding that there's a time to step forward and a time to recede, and that grief, a raw, delicate feeling, doesn't always need an audience to be real. For many who followed Cemre's career, her behavior felt honest, generous, and deeply humane. Gökberk, for his part, didn't let the moment pass without adding his voice. He said he understood Cemre completely. He spoke about her empathy, about the way she reads a room before acting, about how she has always taken care with the people he loves. His gratitude came through plainly. The bond between them, he suggested, lives in the space that doesn't need to be proved to anyone. They have a language that's private, a trust that doesn't require a performance. There was also the timing of her arrival, something that raised questions until she clarified it herself. Cemre explained that she had been stuck at a commitment she couldn't abandon. Work held her longer than expected, and in the world she inhabits, schedules can be unyielding. She said she regretted not arriving sooner but knew she couldn't stay away. Even if late, she wanted to be where her heart told her to be, by the side of the man whose family was hurting. Her late arrival became, for many, another sign of loyalty. It wasn't a glossy entrance. It wasn't arranged for visibility. It was simply a decision to be present the moment she could. And that, to those who understand how relentless public life can be, mattered most. She put her head down and walked in softly, eyes forward, careful not to disrupt what was unfolding. There are times when arriving without fanfare is the loudest statement a person can make. On social media, images of Cemre circulated, her posture calm, her demeanor composed, her distance measured just so. Observers noted how she seemed to be listening as much as comforting, how she stayed close without stepping into the emotional space of those grieving more deeply. The idea that intimacy can be quiet began to resonate. The thought spread: the strength of a relationship isn't always traced by what a crowd can see, but by what two people understand when no one else is watching. For a long time, the the relationship between Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yildirim has been defined by a careful balance of privacy and presence. They have never built their bond on spectacle. In interviews, they offer glimpses, not confessions. They keep their center steady, share the edges now and then, and let the rest remain theirs. It's an approach that feels almost radical in an era where everything is content. Perhaps that's why this story took off. Because their refusal to perform is, itself, a story. Still, every small movement draws attention. A missing hug, a turned shoulder, a moment of stillness, these become symbols people decode and assign meaning to. This time, the absence of a visible embrace turned into a theory mill. But Cemre's explanation cut through the chatter. She made it clear that she was thinking about the Yildirim family first, and about the responsibility that comes with being the partner of someone who is mourning. Fans found relief in that clarity. Many said they were grateful to see a couple who choose to hold some things close. In a world of instant affection and public declarations, seeing restraint was a reminder that love can be thoughtful. Some pointed out that Cemre's decision aligns with what she's often expressed, that relationships are sustained by compassion, by careful communication, and by support that doesn't rely on applause. Her actions at the funeral were not passive. They were deliberate. She paid attention to how she stood, to the tone of her voice, to the gentle way she greeted relatives. She avoided gestures that might shift the mood or draw a flood of eyes. Even the smallest choices, where to sit, when to speak, how long to remain, were made with care. When people say emotional intelligence matters, this is what they mean, reading a moment and making yourself smaller so someone else's pain has room to breathe. Entertainment programs weighed in too, and for once, the tone wasn't combative. Commentators suggested that what Cemre showed should be a model for any public figure facing a deeply private sorrow in a public space. It is easy to appear composed on a red carpet, it's harder to navigate a day like that with dignity. And it's harder still to do it while cameras track every heartbeat. Gökberk echoed this sentiment in quiet remarks afterward. He said that one of the things he admires most about Cemre is the way she understands him without being told. He spoke about the moments between them that don't require words, how in silence they can still hear each other clearly. In a time as heavy as a funeral, he said, her presence, just being there, was the deepest comfort. What grew out of that day wasn't scandal. It was a portrait of a relationship holding steady. Away from the headline frenzy and the demands of their industry, they continue to cultivate a connection rooted in trust and thoughtful care. And if you ask those who've watched their journey from the beginning, they'll tell you, the real test of a couple isn't the fireworks, but the quiet understanding in the hard hours. Online, the response was intense. Thousands of comments stacked up, many of them pointing to the grace of what Cemre chose not to do. Some called it emotional elegance, the kind of grace that emerges only when a person's instinct is to protect, not to perform. In a place where everything can be content, the decision to leave certain moments untouched looked, to many, like a small act of rebellion. Meanwhile, the couple continues to thread that line between privacy and presence. They share enough to keep fans close, but hold the core of their life where it's safest. Now and then, they post a snapshot that feels real and unforced, coffee on a quiet morning, a laugh on set, a shared look at a premiere. The rest, they keep. That choice, their followers say, is the secret to their calm. Of course, secrets can be misunderstood. Some viewers insisted that affection should always be visible, that a public show of closeness at a funeral would have silenced rumors faster than any statement. But others countered that what truly matters is whether the person most affected, Gökberk, felt supported. And by his own account, he did. Public doubt dissolves when private trust is strong. In her reflection, Cemre also made space for imperfection. She admitted that she wished she could have gotten there earlier, that she hates when work and life collide in cruel ways. She knows that being late can look like indifference. But life doesn't always align with the heart's timing. What counts is what you do when you finally arrive. Those who were there describe her presence as gentle. She knew the aunt, had heard stories, had shared family dinners where the laughter was easy and the love straightforward. People remember the way she greeted relatives with both hands, meeting their eyes. They mention how she stepped back when grief needed quiet, then stepped forward when someone looked unsteady. It was subtle, but it was real. And that is why, as time passes, the narrative has shifted. What was first framed as a mystery, why no hug, has become a case study in care. In a moment that could have been turned into a spectacle, Cemre chose to keep it human. In a day defined by loss, Gökberk recognized that choice for exactly what it was. For those who followed the pair, this resonates with everything they have shown over the years. Their interviews are candid but never revealing for the sake of revelation. Their public appearances are polished but not over-orchestrated. They don't sell their privacy, and they don't borrow it either. There's a steadiness to them that makes days like this comprehensible. And still, the fascination persists. Fame has a way of turning even restraint into content. A pause becomes a clue, a glance becomes a headline. But in the end, what spoke loudest wasn't a gesture, it was the intention behind it. Cemre's quiet choice underscored a truth that fans of both already sensed: they are building something that doesn't need approval to exist. This is why the story landed so deeply with people far from their world. Everyone has faced a moment when the right thing to do isn't the most visible thing. Everyone has been late because life demanded too much at once. Everyone knows what it feels like to want to comfort someone and yet understand that comfort, to be truly kind, sometimes requires restraint. Even days later, when the conversations began to settle, a new appreciation lingered. It wasn't that there had been no comfort. It was that comfort had been offered in the way the family needed it. It was there in a hand placed lightly on a shoulder, in a promise whispered when the room emptied, in the decision not to turn pain into a picture. For Gökberk, this reinforced a simple belief, that Cemre sees him, and sees what matters to him. He thanked her, not just publicly, but in the quiet space they keep for themselves. He acknowledged how she protected the family's peace and kept the day from becoming a public theater. In doing so, she protected him too. It would be easy to end this story with a neat moral, but life rarely offers neatness. What it does offer are choices. Cemre made hers with care, and the response it drew says as much about the audience as it does about her. Maybe people are tired of watching love become a product. Maybe what they want, deep down, is to see that dignity still has a place. So where does this leave them? Right where they were before, two people living in a high-volume world, choosing a quieter frequency. The next time they are seen together, there may be a smile or a touch, or there may not be. It won't matter. What happened on that day has already said enough about who they are to each other. Now, we want to know what you think. Was Cemre's choice an act of respect, the right kind of love in the hardest kind of moment? Or do you believe a public embrace was necessary to shut down the noise? Share your thoughts below, your voices help shape this conversation. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, leave a like, and, if you'd like to support exclusive content, hit the members button to help grow this community. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.